Breakthrough Parenting, moving your family from struggle to cooperation.
Lesson 2.2, Making the Shift. Moving from victim thinking to taking responsibility. Children naturally deflect personal responsibility for their actions onto someone or something else. Rita, who is 6 years old, self righteously tells her mother, "Brian pushed me," when she had been tormenting Brian all morning. Billy is bouncing a ball in the living room and the ball hits the lamp. The lamp breaks and Mom asks, "Did you break the lamp?" Billy answers, "No, the ball did it." In these situations, children are truly not clear about who or what is responsible for what happened. They need an explanation and parental leadership to understand how their actions created the result they received. If these kinds of situations are handled without blaming, shaming, or another form of punishment, children are likely to continue being confused about how they have participated in the problem. If your children are not held accountable when they try to deflect blame, they are likely to develop a pattern of not accepting responsibility for their behavior. Initially, they may do this because, out of fear of punishment, they do not want to admit that they made a mistake. Also, if they are not caught, it seems worth it to pretend that they do not know anything about the situation, when in fact, they created the problem. The victim syndrome. Unfortunately, these children grow up to become even more skilled at ducking and dodging responsibility for their behavior, to a point where it becomes an actual dysfunction of their personality. They can easily get caught up in a victim syndrome, which involves three separate roles: the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer. The victim seeks the rescuer. The rescuer becomes the persecutor. The persecutor chases the victim, and the cycle starts all over again. The victim syndrome is a pathological condition where people repeatedly blame others for mistreating them, when the source of their problems lies within themselves. This has nothing to do with the person actually being the victim of a harmful act. When people are truly victims, they handle their problems differently from those who are involved in this syndrome. For one, true victims accept personal responsibility. They tell the truth and they seek to right what was wrong. Being a victim does not become a way of life for the true victim. The victims in the victim syndrome. The quality that characterizes people who are the victims in the victim syndrome is that they have made flawed judgments for which they are not willing to take responsibility. Now, I'm sure plenty of you guys have met these type of people. These are people who are always claiming to be the victim. Something happens to them over and over and over again, and they don't take any responsibility for any part they played into the consequences of their actions. The rescuers in the victim syndrome. Victims find rescuers who initially try to help them, but these rescuers soon catch on that the victims are being irresponsible and they get angry. In essence, the rescuers realize that they are being taken advantage of and they put their foot down. I know myself have been in this situation when you're trying to help somebody out as much as possible, but then you realize that that person is actually taking advantage of you, and then you say, "You know what? No, I'm done. I'm no longer going to help you out. You're going to have to figure this out on your own." And then the victim more than likely just goes on and moves on to another target or rescuer. The persecutors in the victim syndrome. Rather than admit that they have done anything wrong or put in effort towards making it right, the victims think that the rescuers who are complaining about their irresponsible behavior are now their persecutors. Most victims have quite a few persecutors after them who they are trying to avoid. Victims get by with irresponsible behavior again and again, which encourages them to continue behaving in this way. The victims then seek new rescuers who will believe their stories and think that they are true victims who need protection and help. And then the cycle continues. So once again, the victim cycle is that the victim seeks a rescuer. And then once the rescuer figures out that the victim is, just irresponsible, then the rescuer becomes the persecutor. And when they're seen as the persecutor in the victim's eyes, they think, "Oh, hey, this person now doesn't like me, so I'm going to try to avoid them." But the persecutor who really cares about the victim then chases the victim because, obviously they want to help the person. They want to let them know that they're being irresponsible, and hopefully the victim will start realizing that they are in the victim cycle. Jerry asks his new friend Zach for a loan. I just need to borrow $10. I get paid on Friday at noon. I'll come here right after I get paid and pay you back. Zach says, okay, here's $10. I'll see you Friday. The truth is that there are a lot of other people waiting for Jerry to pay them too. And Jerry has lots of debts. Jerry can never explain where his money goes. So when asked about his broken promise, he says, oh yeah, I meant to pay you, but I had other expenses that I had to pay first. My boss is impossible to get along with. He fired me, and I'm trying to collect my last paycheck from him, but he's never there when I try to go get my money. I'll pay for it after I get a new job. I won't have any trouble getting a job. Jerry's hard luck is his own doing. He never thinks about his accountability to others. He's not a reliable employee, so he cannot keep a job. He continues to make empty promises. In this case, Jerry is the victim, Zach is the rescuer, and all of those who are angry about not being paid back are persecutors. Jerry's boss is also a persecutor in Jerry's mind because he is angry at Jerry for not being reliable and for creating a lot of extra work for him. Soon, Zach will realize that Jerry is not going to pay him back, and he will become angry. Jerry's response to this will be to think of Zach as his persecutor as well. We all like to be rescuers at times because it feels good to help people. It is true that people are sometimes real victims of circumstances over which they have no control. It is very important to help each other in times like these. However, the victim in this dysfunctional game knows this and exploits people who are kind hearted and who want to help. Rescuers are easily conned into believing the drama. They become angry when they realize that they have been taken advantage of. Learning how to be responsible begins in childhood. With breakthrough parenting methods, children do not live in fear of being punished. Therefore, it is easier for them to tell the truth and to take responsibility for their mistakes. Instead of using punishment, parents identify the source of their children's behavior, i.e., the feelings, thoughts, and needs that are not being addressed or met adequately. Parents show compassion and help their children understand better ways of getting their needs met. These children are unlikely to become adults who participate in the victim syndrome as a way of life. As Henry Ford put it, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. The shift from a negative to a positive way of living begins in our minds. Positive thinking is an art. Like any serious artistic endeavor, it takes practice. Over time, new habits replace old. Instead of focusing on what we do not want, we can train ourselves to focus on what we do want to experience. One of my students, Barbara, seemed to have one disaster happen after another. She was going through a divorce and had a pending evaluation of her performance as a parent by an evaluator who had previously reported that she was not adequately caring for her children. The custody of her children was on the line. I could see that she had become a much better parent by attending breakthrough parenting class. I was sure that the evaluator would also be pleased with her progress. In the class before her important meeting, Barbara was slumped down in her chair and wearily said, I am thinking the very worst so that I won't be disappointed. What a recipe for disaster. That one sentence showed me a big source of her misery. She was thinking in opposites, and she was consistently getting the opposite result of what she wanted to happen. I noticed that she frequently whined, why do these things keep happening to me? The answer was that she was thinking negatively, hoping to achieve positive results, but her negative thinking became a self-fulfilling prophecy. She thought she couldn't, so she couldn't. On the other hand, Dennis was in a similar situation. He was going through a divorce and was advised to attend a breakthrough parenting class to help him become a better parent. Dennis readily admitted that he needed help. He wanted to know the best way to raise children and was an eager student. He asked questions when he did not understand a concept. He completed his homework with care. When he went for his final review with a custody evaluator, his approach was to talk about all of the things that he had learned in the breakthrough sessions. His enthusiasm carried the day, and the evaluator gave him a successful report. He thought he could, and he could. There is so much negative thinking in our culture that it takes real discipline to make this shift. People can overcome by this surrounding themselves with people who have made this change in their lives. Positive thinkers become good role models. Each can help each other. Too many people suffer from negative thinking, and this creates problems in families. We attract what we project. Negative thinking is fueled by fear, and it makes us off balance. Negative people invite nervousness, anxiety, and ill health. Positive thinking attracts a loving state of comfort and being in balance. It invites peace of mind and robust health. We attract what we project. Beware of perpetual victims and other toxic people who cannot tolerate happiness. They act in ways that attract others to think as negatively as they do. Sometimes we need to actively seek more positive friends. This is the end of lesson 2.2. Yes, now you're listening.